All right, guys, if you're watching this, that means that you attended our NABIP Medicare and ACA track, and we were thrilled to have you there. But we always believe in carrying on the momentum because without momentum, you are basically going to a conference and not doing anything with it. So to carry it on, I have asked Miss Gaylan Hendrix if she would do us a favor. And she is a fantastic lady that I met, I don't know, I think 5 years ago. And what I found most impressive about her is she is willing to advocate for consumers and agents like nobody's business. So much that she has sued the federal government not once, but twice, and won because she is willing to win the war than fight the battle. So, with that being said, Ms. Gaylan Hendrix, thank you for attending. Would you like to give a brief intro about your background other than suing the federal government and winning?
Well, first of all, nobody wakes up every day going, "Hey, let me sue the federal government," right? But I think what we found out is, and I'll hit that really quick, and then if people have been hiding under a rock and haven't seen me, then I'll give them a little intro, not to bore them to tears. But as usual, as we're doing this video recording, my computer decided to update OneDrive. So it's kind of a little slow. So if I'm coming across like I can't talk, I really can. But I absolutely listen better. And I think that that's one of the things that is the takeaway from suing the federal government. Really, all we were trying to do in both of those cases is to get the federal government to listen. And a lot of times, just picking up the phone or sending an email, you guys have found out you don't always get the opportunity to get somebody to listen. So the lawsuit is really more a way of saying, hey, this is serious. We do need to talk this through. And then if they're not willing to listen, then we have to have a judge decide it. And in both of those cases, the first one was about keeping indemnity plans in the marketplace. And what a lot of agents and carriers, let's just go ahead and throw it out there, did not realize back in 2015 that if the federal government had put in place the law that Health and Human Services was trying to do, which basically meant that when you took out any kind of hospital indemnity plan, and I'm not just talking under age 65, Emily, I'm talking dental, vision, and hearing, senior HI, cancer plans, hospital indemnity in the senior market. What they were basically saying was is that if you did not have credible coverage, now think about a senior having credible coverage. When Medicare doesn't really fit the guideline at that time
Mm.
of credible coverage because you had to cover maternity. Now, I don't know about you, but there were a lot of 65-year-olds not really getting excited about maternity. And heading that direction, I can tell you, I'm not. I couldn't if I want to. But back to serious. So what we basically did was brought to Kathleen Sebelius's attention at the time. This is crazy. There's no way that a client is going to go out and buy a Volkswagen if they have to have a Mercedes first. And that's why they were describing ACA is that it was the absolute best coverage you could buy. And in 2014, it was like it is now. Not everybody in their right mind could get a subsidy. You know, at
Mm.
the time, my ACA plan on the exchange was close to $1,500 a month. You know,
Dang.
now when I go out there to price myself, I'm like at 2,100 for a bronze plan.
Hmm.
So there were just clients that were like, there's no way I can afford to pay a rent, a mortgage for health insurance,
Yeah.
especially when I can go get it anytime when open enrollment starts. Because
Hmm.
if you think about it, and this is what I finally explained to the federal government, and fortunately, the judge we got in that 2015 case, he was really understanding. And he would call me with attorneys in chambers and he would say, okay, sister, I need you to dumb this down for me. And he was really, just very layman. And that's what I want to encourage everybody that's watching this today. When you've got somebody like Emily that's leading a NABIP chapter, that's our lobbyist for the insurance industry, truly. And we're
Mhm.
working every day. I sit on the ledge committee of NABIP. We're working every day trying to get our federal government to understand we truly want to do the right thing for the client. And so, what happened with this case is we won in state court, which is very hard to do in DC, but we did. And then the government appealed it. And I was the only testimony. David Harris, that owns Manhattan Life, that a lot of you have heard me talk about for years and will continue because he actually stood up and believed what I said as an agent first
Mhm.
and said, hey, let's go tell them what this is all about. And he did that with me. And then the government appealed, and then we won the second time in appellate court 3-0. And we had a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent judge that ruled in our favor. And then, of course, Emily, you were very helpful in the other time that we got to sit with the
Yes.
federal government.
And
And because I
and it's
drug her.
scary. Yeah, you asked for help.
Yeah.
It
Yes,
didn't
I
take a
did.
lot of convincing, but I mean, when you go to take on the federal government, I mean, you're really putting it all out there, right? Like
You
you're
are.
putting your name, yourself, you have professional licenses. I'm like, there's movies about this kind of stuff, you know? But
Yes.
but this is like a good reason because people are probably like, okay, why are we talking about this? Well, it matters because winning that first case, well, the second case winning was great too, but really winning that first case set the precedent of what is going to happen and what the opportunity is in the future of healthcare. Because a lot of agents who are in the health space are worried about all the turmoil and all the financials and everything, and maybe they're not having a business. And like I've told you before, I was like, my husband's from Europe, so we know what socialized medicine looks like there. If that were to happen here in the US, there's still things and opportunities for agents to capitalize on. So I wanted you to talk about where those opportunities are that people are just not knowledgeable about. Because I wasn't until I literally met you.
Well, thank you for that. And I think that that plays right into the second lawsuit, which was just basically getting the government to listen about final rule, right, on the Med Advantage side. And we won that one as well. And the reason that I wanted to get people like Emily and people like you that are watching is because I've been selling or educating or teaching. I don't think selling is a bad word because everything in my house I bought, everything I drive I bought. So selling is not a bad word. It's a synonym for education.
Mhm.
And I think that what we've got to remember is that everything we do is for the client's welfare. And what's really, really important to me after going through a dad that I lost to cancer, not because of the disease, but because of financial devastation, basically losing my mom in a Medicaid nursing home situation, it made me realize that what I had been doing all these years were really plans that we weren't talking about enough to our clients. So, what I've started educating agents on now, and I learned from all of you watching every day, better ways to script it, better ways to talk about it, better ways to bring it up. And what I've discovered is, first of all, if you've not heard me make a sales presentation, I'm pretty good at it. Just going to say. Uh, that's my background. I started out wanting to be a CEO of an insurance company, and I walked into becoming a commission accounting clerk of a marketing group, which at that time would have been deemed an FMO. And then later, as time went on, I figured out where my real talent was and where God called me to be was in sales. I have a way of selling that's more of an education platform. And I've started teaching agents about how to sell in a way that your clients will say, oh my gosh, this is not your typical agent that I dealt with in the 1980s, even though I started in the 80s. Um, One of the most important things to do when you're sitting down with a client in the senior space is to just ask a simple question of who helps you make your financial decisions. We want to include them in these decisions because a lot of times your adult children don't realize what your basic health insurance doesn't cover. And when they find that out, it's too late. So I would like to know their telephone number. I would like to know their email address because whatever we do in the way of doing business today, I want to send them a thank you letter. But more importantly, what I want to do is talk to them. I want to make sure that they're clear that you don't want to be a burden on them. And if you truly can't afford, because we've talked about some of your demography, Emily, that there are just some
Mhm.
people that can't afford it, but their adult children can. Their adult children are bettering their lives because a lot of times their parents made sacrifices for them.
That's
So
right.
they're really working on building their 401ks. But with that said, they don't want to drain their 401k for one move. You know, I joke with everybody, but it is an absolute true story. When I'm on the road, and I'm on the road a lot, I always say Chat GPT, I call her Chat Girl, and Siri are my best friends. And that's why I get better and better every day at learning what you agents are up against because I literally went to Chat Girl the other day in front of a group I was training. And I did it intentionally so they could see what I do. And I said,
Mhm.
"Hey, Chat Girl, I need to understand how many moops," and I said it just like that, how many moops
Mhm.
would a senior citizen be out of pocket on a Med Advantage plan? And it came back, Gaylan. Like we talk every day, so they know
Yeah.
my name.
Yeah.
Gaylan, we can brand this as Queen of the Bundle if you like, but in order for you to understand how many maximum out of pockets your clients will be out, it's around two, no less than two, probably three. And that
Yep.
shocked me because I've been going around the country telling everybody start at 20,000 if you've got a
Mhm.
Med Advantage client because your adult children of that client would rather spend $1 a day or $2 a day than
That's right.
walking up to an oncology clinic and being told, "Hey, we're going to need 10,600 to get started today." Okay.
And you know what, Galen? People don't understand how the actual accessing of benefits works. That's where I've
Yes.
told agents, I'm like, you don't get on a payment plan for chemo. You pay for it before you get it. Right. So if they don't have $10,000 today to start their chemo, and it's not like you pay a copay every time you go for chemo, like you have to pay for the set. But you
Yeah.
wouldn't know that as an agent. Like you don't, it's not like everyone is having a heart attack and they go to the ER and then they'll get billed later, right? And it's not even just that. It's even things as simple as like, I need a hip replacement. I need to have a torn ligament fixed, and I tell agents, I'm like, guys, you have to understand how seniors access benefits. Because if you don't understand how they access it, you don't know how these play a role in it, right? And then to your point about adult children, our team, on a lot of these, you can add a beneficiary. So I want to know who
Yes.
the beneficiary is. And we make the agent call the beneficiary and say, hey, look, your mom is getting a cancer, heart attack, stroke plan because the plan that she's on means that if she needs to go get chemotherapy, she needs to drop 10 grand. And as of right now, she says she doesn't have that. She didn't want to put that burden on you. Do you understand how this works? Please save my number. She gets diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, stroke, call us. Right?
That is,
Like, very
you could
simple.
be the princess of the bundle.
Okay, the
I love
princess of
it.
the bundle. But
I
my thing
love
is, I
it.
don't think agents understand how they access benefits. So it sounds good in theory, like, okay, you'll cover your moops, but you have to sell the picture to the client, right?
Well, and
So,
that's understanding claims, right?
Mhm.
So when an agent only sells MA, one thing I want you all to understand that are selling MA, and I know y'all are watching, and I'm so honored to be amongst your midst because what you do is hard. With all these changes every day, it's hard for us to keep up. But I'm going to continue fighting for our veterans and our seniors and our agents. Those are
Mhm.
the three things next to my family that are near and dear to my heart. And somebody asked me the other day when I was going to retire, and Taylor said, "Oh, she'll die before she retires," which is probably a very true statement. But what I will say to that is understanding how claims work. So if your client's on a Med Advantage plan and their doctor says, "Hey, I think they need 20 days of skilled nursing," the Med Advantage carrier, because they're getting such a leaner, meaner budget, because the federal government is saying you will keep these plans at zero.
Mhm.
And a lot of you don't realize when Med Advantage started, Med Advantage was supposed to be the HMO of insurance.
Mhm.
Medicare Supplement was supposed to be the PPO of insurance for the senior, so that a client had choice. If he wanted to choose his doctor, his hospital, he paid a little more for Medicare Supplement, but he paid it up front. On the Med Advantage background, you paid it as you used it. And we really thought in those days that we wouldn't see these outrageous moves because we
Mm.
really thought this, and I don't like using the word socialized in this instance, but it is truly the
Yeah.
right word. HMO medicine was driven from Europe. And it was because so many Americans were like, how do we get zero premium? How do we not pay for these things? Well, then when the carriers and the government got together and said, hey, we'll start creating these PPOs on the Med Advantage side, that's what really just jacked it up. Because
Yes.
a lot of our D-SNP clients, C-SNP clients, agents are like, well, how in the world can they do that and not ruin their Medicaid? Well, make the adult child the owner of the policy. That's
Mhm.
how you do it.
Yeah.
And then you sell small amounts because the government doesn't have all this money to give. Y'all,
No.
we are the bank. So when they're having to raise money to fund these things, they're coming after taxpayers. So the federal government works for us. We have got to be more vocal about what we feel we can afford. There's not one of you watching that doesn't want to take care of a senior citizen. But
No.
what you don't want to do is take care of somebody sitting on their couch, watching TV all day, smoking whatever all day, and those people are getting free insurance. That's not what our tax dollars should be used for. Our
No.
tax dollars should be used for the people who can't do something, not won't. And so I'm very passionate about when you bring these products in to say your insurance carrier may only approve 5 to 7 days of skilled nursing
Mhm.
of your 20. So, what are you
Yeah.
going to do about those other 13? Let me
Mhm.
talk to you about what Medicare doesn't cover, and let's
Yes.
work backwards. Let me talk to you about what your ACA doesn't cover, and
Mhm.
let's work backwards. That's the way I started selling, not in the 1900s, for those of you that are watching, but in the 1980s and 90s. We would bring out the exemptions, the things that weren't covered, and said,
Right.
look, this plan has a great rate for you. It's going to cover almost everything that you want to do. And this is under age 65,
Mhm.
which is very near and dear to my heart as well. And I would say, if you're wanting to have a baby in the next 3 to 5 years, you need to put money in the bank for that. Because in
Right.
order to afford your health insurance, it's not going to cover maternity. And I
No.
never had any client say to me, that's terrible, or I don't want to do that. It's like I
No.
either afford group insurance, which I can't afford, Galen, for my
Mhm.
family, or I have to buy an alternative. And this was before Obamacare. So
Yes.
for agents out there being Debbie Downers and negative Neds, you know, y'all just haven't had the ability to learn how to position these products. So
Right.
when you sit on one of my sessions and Emily will pop up the QR code,
Mhm.
that's why our boot camps are so successful and we don't charge for them because we partner with carriers who get us out in front of people because they've realized it's a losing game for them when they're doing a subsidy product or they're doing a zero premium med advantage, especially when the government keeps putting pressure on the carrier about what it has to look like.
Yeah.
So, those of you watching who are just so negative about your carriers, first of all, I'm going to ask you to please give them benefit of the doubt over these next couple of years. It's taken
Yeah.
us a long time to get in this disaster. It's going to be longer than a year to fix it. Okay, it's
Yes.
math. You don't have to know calculus or algebra, but you do know how to have to add and subtract and multiply
Hmm.
and divide. And that's what our actuaries are dealing with right now is how do we keep all of this good for our client and our agents?
Hmm.
Because carriers know they're nothing without you. I know they've got a
No.
lot of direct to consumer call centers. I've taught a lot of those direct to consumer call centers tied to
Yeah.
carriers,
Well,
but
and
they're
but let's
not
be
the
honest,
antichrist.
they're not. And I always tell agents, I'm like, you have to. I even have content on there right now about being a high value carrier partner because I do believe it's in everyone's best interest to have financially sustainable carriers, whether it's MA, ACA, alternative options, hospital indemnity, cancer, heart attack, stroke, all of those, right? I want everyone to make money. Number one, because all the 401ks and pensions and all the money is tied up in these publicly traded
Yes.
carriers. So, like, let's stop acting like the shareholders are the Jeff Bezos of the world, right? It's the teachers, police officers, firemen, it's us, right? So, we have to like change our mentality, which that's what I want to ask you because I feel like one of the issues, agents, because if a lot of agents came in the space, you saw a big agent boom with Medicare Advantage, especially post COVID and ACA. It's easy to sell zero. How do you get like what's your number one tip to get that agent to flip the switch of like, hey, the cheap in America, we get what we pay for, and selling zero is not always doing your client the best. So, what is your advice to agents who are like, well, it's zero. Why would they get anything else?
So the first thing is you've got to get ancillary out of your head because the client doesn't know what that means. The most people don't even know how to pronounce it. So we need to start calling these plans necessary. They're
Hmm?
necessary. That's the first thing you've got to do. The second thing you've got to do for your mindset switch is remember your PNC agent is not calling you up and going, "Hey Gaylan, come on down. We got free insurance, zero premium today."
Mm-hmm.
And you all have to have homeowners and auto.
Hmm.
Why? Banks require it, your state requires it. And you don't think twice when you call that agent up and say, "Hey, I want to file a claim. Somebody broke the window on my car." And they go, "Hey, Galen, you might want to negotiate cash for that because if we file that claim, it's going to up your premium." Well, these necessary plans, when your client calls and says, "Hey, Galen, I've been diagnosed with cancer. My child is going to have to take off work. I don't know how I'm going to take care of my kid losing income. I don't know
Hmm.
how I'm going to provide this 10,600 out of pocket. I don't know." Well, you don't have to worry, Mrs. Jones, because we wrote you a $20,000 cancer policy.
That's right.
And they get to do whatever they want with that money. I did a training yesterday where an agent said, "Hey, I just took my insurance exam." And it said, "Hey, you want to get credible coverage because there's no limits on it. You want to be leery of indemnity plans." And I said, "Let's think about what that question just said to you because it's an absolute lie."
Hmm.
And the agent goes, "Excuse me, ma'am." He was from the South. "Excuse me, ma'am." And I said, "First of all, ACA plans are 12-month plans. They are not guaranteed renewable. So if they're not guaranteed renewable, they can be canceled every year at the 12-month anniversary.
Hmm.
Okay. So there's not an unlimited amount of resources. The only people that get Cadillac plans are our federal government that we employ.
Hmm.
Okay. Even big CEOs don't have Cadillac plans. They've got large out of pockets too, just like
Hmm.
us. So what you've got to remember is that indemnity equals cash. Those plans do not subrogate or coordinate, meaning If that indemnity plan says, and let's say you've got 4 or 5 of them, agents, you need to buy these plans on yourself first,
I
because
have
if
them.
you don't, how are you going to sell them? How are
Nope,
you going to
I
make
have
people
them.
believe they're important?
I tell
Because,
agents that, you know how many agents don't have a health insurance plan
oh
that sell
girl,
health insurance?
don't get me going there. That's a hot seat that
But
I'll
let me tell
probably
you,
be. You'll
but
have
let me tell
to
you,
you'll have to put bad words on here.
yeah, no, we don't want to do that. It's a professional organization. No,
Gosh.
but I have a cancer, heart attack, stroke. So what we did, I do have insurance for my husband's work, right? But it's expensive. We got a high deductible plan and an HSA, reduce down that tax liability a little bit, right? I bought a
Yep.
hospital indemnity and I have a cancer, heart attack, stroke on all 5 of my family members. And it's only $90 a month for a $35,000 check for each one of us. Should we all get it? Knock on wood. I hope I never have to use it, honestly. But
It's
but
just
we have
insurance either way.
it's
It
insurance
insures
either
you either
way.
don't get it or it's insurance if you do.
But
And
what's the
that's the
chances
way
of
I
us
used to
getting
say.
it? Pretty high,
Well,
you
you're a
know.
woman. So you
I'm a
got one
woman.
out of three.
Yeah, I got
And
twin
if you're
daughters.
over the age of 50, you've got
Yeah,
an 87% chance, because that's where cancers are
yeah.
most often diagnosed. Well, and here's the thing, you guys. One of the things you need to remember about all these cash plans, when a client gets that cash reimbursement, it's their money.
Hmm.
There's nothing that says what you can use it for, what you can't use it for. It's cash. So when they send it to you, it goes in a bank account. There's no taxes on it. It's your money.
Yeah.
So where I told this agent yesterday, as I said, think about this right now. You sell a client who's age 50. Your competitor that's getting in the Med Advantage Med Sup space, he's going after the T65. You've enrolled this guy in short term care. You've enrolled him in home health care. You enrolled him in dental, vision, and hearing, final expense, cancer plan. Now the T65 guy's coming after him. And he goes, nope, I don't want to do business with you because Jesse's my agent. But you know
Hmm.
what the real winner is, Jesse, about you getting this guy at 50 versus 65? You've earned 15 years of renewal income over your 65-year-old
Yeah.
T65-year-old competitor. And the way I started training this, Emily, when I started doing it with my 100% underage 65 DTC team, we called all these plans income protection. I just read a stat that I'm getting ready to post that says 40% of Americans have less than $500 of savings in the bank.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's insanity to me, but it's truth. It's truth.
So
And
so
so
what are they gonna do
crazy.
when they have an accident in a car here in Houston, Texas? What are they gonna go put a layaway on their new hip or their surgery? You know what I mean?
Well,
So I tell
and
agents, I'm
think
like,
about that. Think about
yeah,
that. An accident happens every minute of every
mhm,
day.
yeah,
So, what makes me different, you brought that up at the beginning. How do I bring these in? How do I pivot them in? I think the thing that's been most successful for me is talking to a client just like I would talk to you over a cocktail, or just like I would
hmm,
talk to somebody over coffee. It's like, hey, Emily, did you know? And you and I've had a lot of these conversations,
hmm,
and you're like, I didn't know that.
oh,
It's okay to be an agent and use IDK. It's totally okay.
yes,
But it's also okay to be able to say to somebody, I don't know, but I'll get you the answer. It's also okay to say, hey, I just went through a training and I had no idea. And so my job is to protect your assets. So I'm going to call you and I'm going to give you 3 opportunities to say no to me. And I'm going to get you to sign a declination form, because
hmm,
I want a clean conscience now that I know this, that every client I speak to has got to say, no, I don't want that plan. Because the minute they feel a knot, you guys, or the minute they start feeling like, what is that? They're going to call you up and they're going to say, hey, can I buy
silly.
that cancer plan now? And my heart melts. I'm like,
Mm-mm.
You can if you get a clear letter from a doctor, because here's what's going to happen, Mrs. Jones. I'm going to write this plan on you. You're going to go get a well woman checkup. Then you're going to want to file a claim on this plan. And because you're in the 2-year contestability period, they're going to deny it
Mhm. Yep.
because you knew you had cancer. And so I don't want to be in that situation. So I'm going to get a
Mm.
form signed. Agents run from getting more paperwork done. I run to it.
Same.
You
Well,
know,
and
48-hour
here's
scope never bothered me.
no, it didn't. I mean, I just work with the rules that there. I can't do the things I can't control, right? But I'll
Right.
be honest. Like our Kim, my business partner, everyone knows I have one. She gets on a radio show every Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday and Thursday, and she'll talk about it because we have a large book of business that was never presented it, and I'm going to tell you, we feel terrible, and we're working that book. Like we're constantly, reminding people they can get this. But the people that call in after that radio show, 100% of the time, whether it's hospital indemnity, cancer, heart attack, stroke, the like Aetna recovery care, all of those that we talk about, they want it, and guess what? It's too late. They don't
Yeah.
qualify. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna get a cancer policy when you have cancer, you know?
You just
And I
reminded me of something. So I want to stop right there before I forget it. A lot of times agents will say, "Hey, do you want hospital indemnity with that?" Y'all think about what that just said to a client. So I call
uh,
those plans copay coverage, observation
mhm.
stay coverage. So quit calling them hospital indemnity. Quit calling them a cancer plan. Do you want cancer with that? That's what they hear. So when
Yeah.
you say, "Hey, we have the chemotherapy and radiation copay coverage plans for
Mhm.
this large out of pocket, for the infamous nursing home stay. You want nursing home with that?" "No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
But I do want short-term care coverage. If I'm having to get additional help at home, or if I'm going to have to go into a place to get rehab so I can walk better, Mrs. Jones, we have home health care. We have short-term care for that, for you to recover. Quit calling these plans what carriers do. That's why carriers need you. They're not at that home office selling these
No,
plans.
no, they're not.
So you
They're designing
you've got
them,
to
but that's
change
it.
it. Yes. Yeah, you've got to
Well,
change it.
and I tell agents, I'm like, you're not I tell agents you're not selling a product to people, you're selling a solution for them. And also, like going back to the whole mindset thing, you have to stop thinking that if people are paying something, you're scamming. Like I'm not selling dental to somebody with no teeth or vision to somebody who's blind, right? Like we're selling solutions that they actually need. And I'll tell you, when we have people who are turning 65, I go through their employer benefits and I'm like, it doesn't cover this, it doesn't cover this, doesn't cover this. And that's how we get those solutions sold first, even before they go to retire. And one of the
Yep.
hardest things to market to is people who are still working over the age of 65, but not if you get in front of them on these, what we'll call it ancillary, but these necessary plans. And I tell agents, stop thinking that zero is you doing them a favor because you're not.
Yep.
And I always tell them, like, you're keeping people broke. Honestly. And if I wouldn't do it to my own mother, I'm not going to. Every client deserves the opportunity to be educated in this country. They deserve an opportunity to be educated and be able to access healthcare. And it's up to them what they decide. And I will tell you, you mentioned something earlier, the declination form. Every one of our clients are offered what they're offered, right? Health
Yeah.
products, final expenses later, life is later,
Yeah.
but in the health appointment. And if they decline it, it's fine. But let me tell you, we have had clients, kids who have called to say, hey, I heard you talk about cancer. Or, hey, I heard you talk about life insurance. Did my mother have that? Did my father have that? And to answer them, oh, no, because we didn't offer it is terrible. So you want to say,
Yep.
well, we offered it, but she declined it. And I want to have that form available that, hey, as an agent, I let her know where her fiscal risks were. We gave her the solution for it or him, and they didn't want to take it. And I'm
Well,
going to
in
take this
dental,
from,
well,
there's
let's
a
talk back
guy
at
on,
dental.
yeah,
Wait,
talk
wait, wait.
about it.
We want everybody watching this to be able to go to the mat as soon as they're done watching it and write an
Yes,
app.
for
First of
sure.
all, you should be your first customer. So if you're not writing yourself, give up, get out of the business. Okay. Number two, The other thing you've got to remember is dental, vision, and hearing. There are people paying 18% interest to Care Credit through their dentist just to get a root canal fixed. So when you go
Mhm.
into a dentist office and replace the Care Credit applications with a Manhattan Life dental, vision, and hearing form, those office girls love it because they're tired of telling people you're not in our network. You're not in our network. You're not in our network. And I go up there and go, you take cash, right? Because I had to sit out in a waiting room not too long ago with my husband for over an hour. And I finally went up there and I said, I've heard you say that 10 times. Can I have an agent bring some brochures by? And she goes, sure, we would love that. Y'all, it's that easy. But listen up. Emily said something a while ago that she doesn't give people dental if they don't have any teeth. I want you to think about that. Do you know the number one way
Should I be
to
doing it?
get to a cardiac disease is through a gum exam?
Oh, that's
So
true.
it's very, very important. Brain tumors are most often detected by vision exams. These
Mm.
seniors think they're having a stigmatism issue. And so they go to their eye doctor, and their eye doctor goes, no, you're seeing just fine, but I am going to send you down to the ER because with this headache you're having, it's a problem.
Mm.
So I also use Helen Keller here as an example. And everybody laughs
Mhm.
at me first when I say that. They're like, what does Helen Keller have to do with insurance? Well, in order to train agents, especially new agents that have never been in the industry, you've got to give them really good analogies. And we give these analogies to our clients as well. And I'm like, look, Helen Keller beat all odds. She couldn't see, she couldn't hear, she couldn't speak. But the difference maker for her in her book was I had a great teacher in Anne Sullivan. So you've got to think of yourself as blind, deaf, and not being able to think all this through on your own. And now you've got good coaching. But
Mhm.
flip that switch to your client. Not everybody you talk to is Helen Keller.
Mhm.
They may not be able to see very well. They may be wearing glasses, and maybe their hearing's great,
Mhm.
but they're going to use this dental, vision, and hearing plan to get better eyeglasses.
Mhm.
They maybe have not been able to go to the dentist because they couldn't afford it. Well, now their children have bought them this dental, vision, and hearing plan, and they're not having to pay 18% interest. Bringing those adult children into this equation helps them keep their 401ks healthy, and they can spend $1 to $3 a day to give their mom and dad something they really need instead of something that's going to sit on a shelf drawing dust that the
Mhm.
client's going to have to clean.
Yeah.
So just start putting yourself in that mindset of, I really want to help my clients, because Emily touched on something a while ago, that I really think is important. And it's about, my mom or dad are both gone. They're not putting money in my bank account. But you know who is? Somebody's mom and dad. And I want to treat them just like I would treat my mom or dad or
Mhm.
grandma or grandpa or aunt or uncle. And that's the way you have to look at it when you're bringing these necessary products in. I see Wellaby has now switched to the deal of calling it, Mariana just did a deal going no longer ancillary, necessary. And
Mhm.
Cody Davis and I have been spreading the message on necessary because I told him I'm so sick and tired of hearing this word ancillary. If one
Yes.
more person tells me to call it ancillary after I've just been getting
And
agents to listen, I'm like, quit worrying about the pronunciation. Worry
yes.
about what the plans are and what they do.
Exactly. Like solve the problem for the client. And don't think that less is more because it's not in this case. But I do
Mm-mm.
like the way that you say it as far as like copay coverage, right? So, how do you balance? So, you offer this copay coverage or cancer coverage. I love the way that you position it. It's more layman's terms because I don't like, hey, do you want this cancer, heart attack, stroke plan? Do you want a hospital indemnity? I don't say that when we're positioning in the presentation. But when we're doing post enrollment, reviewing premiums, I do call it by its official name. But how do you balance how you put it in
Which one?
layman's terms versus how you tell them exactly what it is at the very end?
So the easiest way to do it is once you've already asked who helps you make your financial decisions. If they say, I make all of them on my own, I don't want my kids involved. Okay, well, I'm still going to send you a thank you letter. You can forward it to your kids. But the reason I'm going to do this is because when something happens to you, the first place your kids are going to go is to your bank account. And they're
Mhm.
going to see $100 something going to a carrier. And they're like, Mom told me her coverage was zero. We're canceling that. Well, then you've now lost your cancer coverage. You might have lost your home health care. That's why I believe in selling four $30 plans so that if a client
Mhm.
does need to make an adjustment to their budget, they're going to call me first and we're going to cancel the one that they can get back the quickest, which is dental, vision, and hearing.
Yeah.
So after we've overcome that, we say, look, we're going through your schedule of benefits. And y'all, this works whether you sold them their MA or MedSup or you didn't.
Hmm.
The way you become their new agent is saying, I don't understand why your agent didn't bring this up because all they did was give you one solution, but
Yeah.
you got a lot more problems over here they didn't solve for. So
Right.
my job is to solve for all of your problems. And we can do that around for $1 to $3 a day. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm looking at your plan. I offer this plan too. Your max out of pocket, if you were to get diagnosed with cancer, is $7,500. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is the copay coverage plan to overcome that, not just once, but for at least two times. And the reason I'm telling you that is if you get diagnosed with cancer in July, you're probably not going to be done with your
Mm.
treatment the next year. So I'm sure you know somebody that's been diagnosed with cancer. What happened to them? And then y'all need to pause and let them tell that story because that's them selling themselves. Then the
Hmm.
next thing I do is say, look, you've got some copay coverage options over here, but you told me you had a little bit of savings. Your copay coverages are not bad on this plan. You've got about a $300 a day for the hospital for the first 3 days, and you've got an ambulance copay. I can cover that with another plan, or we can talk about if you got diagnosed with, let's say you broke your hip and you needed to go somewhere for 30 days to get rehabilitated for that. I've got a great short term care plan for that that I want to talk to you about. It's around $1 a day. And I really think that's going to be a larger amount out of your savings account. And the reason I'm bringing this up is almost all the clients I talk with would rather use an insurance company's money instead of their own.
Yes.
Because when they have to go into a savings account of their own or
Mhm.
ask their child to pay for it, Mrs. Jones, have you ever known anybody that's been in long term care or, I hate using this word, but a nursing home? Yeah, a lot of my friends are in there. Well, you know, the biggest reason that they cannot get in one of those, do you know what that is? No, they don't have any money
Mm-mm.
or they don't qualify for Medicaid or their children aren't willing to sign off to pay
Mhm.
for that until they get approved for Medicaid. So now the client's just sitting there after their 20 days is paid for and they're hobbling along because they didn't get to go through all 30 days
Yep.
of rehabilitation. So, in my professional opinion, what I
Mhm.
would recommend is that we take care of this chemotherapy and radiation situation because you're a lady and your chances of getting diagnosed with cancer are 1 out of 3 women, or 87% of cancers are diagnosed in people ages 50 and older. So,
Right.
this is our biggest exposure. The second biggest exposure for you is if you get told, hey, for that hip replacement, we need 30 to 40 days in rehabilitation.
Mhm.
Well, this is what it's going to cost you. Now, in Houston, Texas, it's a little more expensive than it is in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yes.
So you're looking at $135 a day to share a room with somebody.
Mhm.
And if you add that up over 20 days, that's a lot of money. So we want to make sure that we take care of that. And then we can add on copay coverage. Now, in this plan, you've got dental going on, but
Mhm.
it's a limited network. So, who is your dentist currently? We need to look up and see if he's in this network. And if he's
Mhm.
not, your adult children might would rather pay for that for you. Because what I don't want you to do is go down to this dentist you love so much and him say, "Yep, we can do that for you, but we need you to sign this care credit application and it's going to charge you 18% interest."
Yes.
That worries me for you. So
Can I
that's
tell
my
you my can
presentation.
I tell you my mom did that? My own mother, she's a veteran, by the way. And her and my dad's
Thank you
retired
for her
military.
service.
Yeah,
Yep.
I tell her that all the time.
Both of them. Both of them.
But she they have TRICARE. They're not over the age of 65 yet. And what ended up happening is they don't have dental coverage for TRICARE. And she went to some concierge dentist or whatever. And I was like, Mom, it's like if you knew somebody, right? And so
Yeah.
I had to remind myself, like, you have to
Sitting
talk about
here.
this with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. So now
Yeah.
she has a dental vision hearing plan.
Because your mom is sitting there thinking Emily only does health insurance.
Yes, that's what she
Because
said.
when they're working, they are, they usually get dental, vision, and hearing and life insurance as part of their benefit package because they're inexpensive benefits when you're working.
Hmm.
But what the HR people tell you when you retire is you can't take those two plans with you.
Nope.
So a lot of our clients think they can't purchase them in the open market. So
Hmm.
they've got to know everything you do. And one of the things I put out on social media yesterday was when you only offer one premium in the under age 65 on ACA, you are solving only for one situation.
Yep.
When you are working with me, you are going to be solving for all of your out of pocket situations because my job, first and foremost, is to protect your assets so that you're not pulling money out of your investments to spend on health. Because
Yeah.
for very little money, you can invest this in all these insurance products and you're going to be making more money on what you get to keep in the bank.
Hmm.
Because all of these things can happen. And the younger they buy these, the better it is because they are issue age products. And
Right.
that's the whole part about this hospital indemnity lawsuit is that how it protected everybody. So, before we run out of time, the one thing I want to get across to everybody on this call today is I'm here to help you. I know a lot of you are out there going, how do I do this? Who do I turn to? How do I fix this? Well, one of the things we started doing the last 3 months are boot camps that we go out to and we will bring people in that will do the product knowledge and we will bring ourselves in and we'll do the role play. All y'all got to do is collect enough money to get my airfare paid and a hotel room.
Hmm.
And you owe me nothing after that.
And by the way, we were going to have you come do one, but she was busy.
I am. But I'll
That's
come
why
to
we're
the
doing
next one.
this. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Well, and
But the
I
cool
think
thing is we can do that.
and the really cool thing is, because I'm going to share how they can reach out to you. Actually, Scotty sent me your boot camp that y'all are having in Fort
Oh,
Worth on
yeah.
April 27th and 28th.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
good. And but the good thing is people can follow you, and you have YouTube, you have Facebook, and you post so many tips and tricks along the way. But I think one of the
Yeah.
most important things that I think agents need to take back is the real opportunity is, are you maximizing the opportunity for your client? It's not just about your pocketbook. Like I always feel like if you do right by your clients that you'll benefit in the long run anyways. But I feel like agents are really missing the opportunity because they're scared to ask for money or there's some kind of mental block. And I think that's why going to these boot camps or following you and also having these tough conversations with their uplines. I mean, I do feel like uplines should
Yes.
do a better job at this, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Um, that is what you need to do. But Gaylan, we only have a couple minutes left because I know you got to jump for another call. What are
Yeah.
your final thoughts for the agents?
Well, I wouldn't get too worried about what the government does and doesn't do. Number one, the biggest, most successful times of my career is when agents have freaked out and jumped out of the business.
Me
What I'm
too.
going to encourage you all to do is stay put. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job. You all do a lot of things you don't get paid for, which is putting clients on Part B Medicare, getting them in food banks, taking care of them. You do so much, and it's so appreciated. I know I appreciate you, and I know those adult children appreciate you. You just may not be getting the words of affirmation, but during these really hard times, you are so appreciated. The next thing is get out of your comfort zone. Know that the best way to keep a client, and this is a Limerick statistic, the more policies you have with a client, the more that client sees you as their agent. So make sure that you're offering up solutions before they hit. What you don't want to do is solve for a tornado after the house is already destroyed. There's
Mhm.
just no way to do that. And that's what a lot of you are doing. You're waiting for the secret weapon or the secret, how do I do this easier? When are these plans going to be zero? And they're not ever going to be zero because
Mm.
you got to pay something to get cash back. So if you think about it, if you could put money into an ATM, if you could put 300 into an ATM and know you're going to get 1500 back, would you do it? And you would. Everybody would.
Yep.
So that's the way these plans need to be looked at. There's a small investment, but there's a big win, like the home health care plan with Manhattan Life.
Mhm.
If you're taking two prescription drugs and you buy that plan on yourself, you've basically paid for that plan for a year because
Right.
you can get reimbursement on that. I don't care that your PDP reimbursed you. You still send that receipt into Manhattan
Mhm.
Life and
Right.
you get another reimbursement. So a lot of it, Emily started off the call with this, and I think y'all missed it. So I want to exemplify what she said. So many of you do not know how these clients access their benefits. So many of you don't know what's available to them. Well, you've got to get into your portals, you've got to learn your products, but don't be afraid to ask questions. Reach out to Emily, reach out to me,
Mhm.
reach out to anybody that knows me. They'll tell you I'll take your call. I am very accessible. I like to hear from
Yes.
people. I like to hear what they love, what they don't love.
Mhm.
Does it mean I'm going to answer your call if I'm in a big meeting? No, but it means I'm going to call you back or I'm going to text you back.
Mhm.
So I just appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you, Gaylan. I really appreciate everything you're doing by educating and talking about the opportunities because I don't think people have sold it that way in the past. So, with
Yep.
that being said, thank you. Make sure if you're an agent, you follow Gaylan. I'm going to put up the QR code. You scan it, follow, and take action because at the end of the day, if you don't take action, you lose momentum and you never implement, and that will kill your business. So, do the alternative, take action, help your clients, and help your business. Y'all have a good one.